Three hard enduro nutrition mistakes that I see 80% of riders make, and probably more than 80%. So the main problem that comes up here with nutrition for enduro riders is that if you don't tackle your nutrition, you don't have it nailed, then you're just not going to be feeling your best, okay? You're going to run out of energy. It doesn't matter how fit you are, it doesn't matter how good your training is, doesn't matter what exercises you're doing in the gym. If your body's got no energy and there's no fuel in the tank, it doesn't really matter. It's like riding your bike with sending your motor over to pro circuit and then putting shitty petrol in it to try and make it perform. It's just still not going to perform. So what I'm going to do in this video is just give you the top three mistakes that I see that come up again and again and again. So hopefully you can avoid them and change them or work on improving them for your next race. First thing that came to mind was riders have no nutrition strategy. So I find with a lot of riders is what they'll do is they just wing it on race day. Okay, some days they'll have a bacon and egg burger from the canteen. Other days they'll get McDonald's on the way there. Some mornings they won't have anything. Sometimes they'll have a bit of porridge. Sometimes it's Wheat Bix. Sometimes it's nothing and then a few snakes right before the race. Sometimes it's a bottle of Powerade. It's always different. And the problem is if you're always putting different fuel in your body in a different order or at different times, your body's always going to feel different. So you're not going to feel the same energy wise every time you go and ride. And when we're not consistent with your energy for every ride, then it's hit and miss all the time. Some days you feel good, some days you feel shit, some days you're okay. It's very hard to be able to measure what's working and what's not. So first thing I would recommend is actually just having a strategy. And whether it's the right strategy or wrong strategy to start with doesn't really matter. It's just having a strategy. So if you have Wheat Bix in the morning, make sure you have the Wheat Bix at the same time. Okay, make sure you have a Wheat Bix every weekend before a ride or every weekend before a race. And that way, if you change it and you try having a banana instead of Wheat Bix, you can measure the difference. You can say, okay, was it better for those last 4 rides that I had Wheat Bix? Did I feel better doing that? Or did I feel better having a banana for the next 4 rides? And then that's up to you to decide. Then that way you can make progress. Whereas if you're chopping and changing all the time, it's very hard to do that. Second thing that came up was, it's actually more to do with, I've included water as part of nutrition. So a lot of enduro riders just assume that water is the only component of hydration. And so okay, if I'm getting lots of water in, then I must be hydrated. If I'm not getting water in, I'm going to be dehydrated. But that's not entirely true. So when you're doing, especially the longer enduro rides, you're sweating a lot, okay? Especially for hard enduro, because hard enduro, you tend not to be moving very quick. So if you're doing more cross country, you get a lot of wind, which helps to cool you down. Whereas when you're doing hard enduro, you're not moving very fast. Okay, because the sections are very technical. So you're working very hard, okay, putting a lot of effort in, but there's no wind, nothing to cool you down. And you've got all your gear on as well. So you get very hot, very sweaty. When you get very hot and very sweaty, you burn through carbohydrates, naturally burning through energy, okay, but you also sweat a lot. And when you sweat a lot, you get rid of a lot of salt. And salt and carbohydrates are what help our body to hold on to water. So if you're burning through all of these carbs and you're burning through all of this salt, which is what our body needs to hold the water to keep us hydrated, it's going to be very hard to keep yourself hydrated just by putting water in if we've got rid of the things in our body that help us to hold on to it. So instead of just using, my recommendation there is instead of just using water in your Camelback is try and make sure you're putting a focus on replacing the carbs and replacing the salts that you're losing. Multiple ways that you can tackle that. There's a video I posted recently on hydration and what to put in your hydration pack. You can have a look at that. But ultimately what you can do is simple things. Okay, you can put Powerade in your Camelback. Do part Powerade, part water, or do the whole lot Powerade if you can handle that. Put a carb powder in there. Okay, if you've got a carb drink, Bulk Nutrients do a supplement called Electrolyte Plus. You can get a scoop of that and put that in your Camelback and go that way. You can use carb gels. So when you stop, you can have carbohydrate gels. Or you can put sea salt, Himalayan salt. You can put 2-3 grams of sea salt for every litre of water in your Camelback. And you can get your help to replace your salts that way, sodium. So multiple ways of doing it, but really at the end of the day, it just comes down to not just thinking that water is hydration. Okay, water is part of the equation of hydration, but it's not the whole equation. Third thing that I have written down is riders will only worry about nutrition when they've run out of energy. And when you've run out of energy and you feel shit, that's when it's too late. Okay, it's very, very hard to be able to come back from not having energy to full energy while you're still riding. Okay, so the best way to be able to overcome that is to be prepared. Okay, so be organized beforehand. It's going, okay, what are the things I need to do nutrition-wise before the race to help me during the race? Whereas what most riders do is go, oh, I'm cramping. Oh, I've got no energy. Oh, I'm getting dizzy. Oh, I feel dehydrated. And then they're trying to scramble to try and get on top of things. And it's just not going to happen. Okay, it's very, very hard to be able to get back to 100% while you're continuing to ride, while you're continuing to race. So that's a simple one. Not easy, but simple. Is just get organized, get things organized beforehand. Have your carb gels mapped out, have your Powerades mapped out, and I've done plenty of other videos on that, so you can have a look at those if you're interested. So just to recap, top 3 mistakes. Number 1 is riders have no nutrition strategy at all. Okay, they just rock up to race day, they wing it, they do whatever they want every race day, and so we get no consistency. We feel different every time we go and ride. Very hard to test what works for you and what doesn't if you're always changing. Second thing was assuming that water is good enough for hydration. So it's just understanding that water is part of the equation, it's not the whole equation. Make sure you get plenty of carbs and salts in as well so you can hold on to the water and keep hydrated. Third thing is, as we just talked about, which is worrying about nutrition when it's too late. Okay, so try and get organized, try and get prepared. Don't get sucked into the trap of worrying about your carbs in hour 3 of a 4-hour enduro because you feel shit. Start worrying about your carbs and your salts in before the race. Start worrying about your carbs and salts in hour 1 and hour 2 so that it doesn't become a problem in hour 3 or hour 4. So hopefully you found that helpful. Hopefully you can avoid some of those mistakes. If you'd like some help building your race fitness and dialing in your race day nutrition, feel free to apply for my Faster Laps program. I'll put a link for it below if you'd like some help. Otherwise, hopefully you enjoyed today's video.